For this lesson, I'll be using the Big City Flyer InDesign file located in the Chapter 4 subfolder of your Project Files folder on your desktop. To get your images placed inside of your InDesign file, go to the File menu and choose Place. Another handy method is to open MiniBridge. I have MiniBridge open to the right. If you don't have it open, you can find it by going to the Window menu and looking about halfway down the list, and you'll see MiniBridge. MiniBridge is very similar to Bridge, the standalone product, right? But most Adobe applications have MiniBridge built inside. It's a very quick way to get assets from your computer into your InDesign document. Now, you may need to navigate to your computer and find where your files are. Ours are on our desktop, and we're right here in Chapter 4. In the Chapter 4 folder, these are all of the files that we have available. You may notice some Word documents and some other graphic files. If you hover over each of these icons, you can see the file extension. For example, this one's an InDesign file. This guy here is an InDesign file. This one is an Illustrator file, and I believe we have a Photoshop file as well. Now, instead of going to the file place, if you wanted to get one of these graphics or any other document onto your page, you simply select the graphic that you'd like to place and then pull it and drop it out onto the workspace. Now, if I move my cursor around, it really didn't place it quite yet. It's waiting for me to click. Now, you can see I can place this anywhere I want. If I click one time, we're going to get this image at full scale, meaning it's going to come in at whatever size it's stored. Our other option is to actually click and drag, and we can size the image as we bring it in. And there you have it. Now, if you're wondering why it looks a little fuzzy, one great shortcut that you can do in InDesign to see a better graphic display is to right-click on the image, go down to Display Performance, and choose High Quality Display, and then you'll be able to see your image a little bit more clear. Now, if you have a lot of graphics in your InDesign document, you probably don't want to do that a lot because it will slow you down a lot as it uses more memory to process your InDesign file. Let's try that again. So what we did is we just placed in a regular JPEG. Well, what if we needed to place in a layered Photoshop file? One option again is to go to File Place, or Control-D or Command-D is the shortcut for that. But here's a Photoshop file right here, right? This is a Photoshop file, and so is this guy here, Selections Complete from our Photoshop lesson. So let's take a Photoshop file and drag this guy onto the workspace, and if we click and drag with our mouse, the same thing happens. Our Photoshop file is now placed in. Well, chances are that we don't really need all of the layers that were created with our Photoshop file, but we want to pick and choose. For example, if we wanted maybe just to see the little dog and the cat, the ones that we feathered there in the background, and not the others, we can do that. Let's right-click and go to Object Layer Options. Now, you could have used the Object menu at the very top as well, but it's just as easy to right-click or Command-click if you're on a Mac. Let's go to Object Layer Options, and this is where InDesign lets us know, hey, you're dealing with a layered Photoshop file. Which layers do you want to see and which ones do you not want to see? Well, we'll just move this over, and we can turn the visibility off next to any of the layers that we don't want to see. Okay, so maybe we'll just disable white cat, and our goal again is to get the two feathered layers. So let's see, I believe that would be layer 3 and 4, and we'll just disable the other ones. Layer 1 was the white background layer, and I believe if we also turn the visibility off next to layer 2, we'll be all set, and then we can click OK. Well, let's talk about a Word document. How would you handle that? Well, let's check it out. Let's take this guy and move it over a little bit, and now let's select one of our Word documents, maybe Intro Doc. We'll drag it over to our InDesign document, and this time click and drag again, holding down your mouse to create a text frame. The text frame is a little big, no problem. We can just squeeze that right up. All right, so now we've placed in text as well. Well, what about an Illustrator file? Well, remember that when you deal with Illustrator, that's vector just like InDesign is. You can, of course, find an Illustrator file and drag it and drop it over, just like you did everything else. No problem there. But I find it very helpful if you actually switch over to Illustrator and grab your pure vector from Illustrator rather than placing it in. we know that when we deal with vector, we can grab our direct selection tool and hover over and actually modify the points on your path or your vector object. Well, it's much better and much cleaner instead of pulling it in from Bridge if we actually just go over to Illustrator and get it and copy paste it to our clipboard. So let's delete this guy. So I'm just going to hit the delete key and we'll see that our frame is still hanging out back there. We'll delete that as well. And now let's switch over to Illustrator. Illustrator is open, so we'll just switch over and activate Illustrator. And here I have open the Big City Pet Sitters logo Illustrator file that can be found in your Chapter 4 Project Files folder. So go ahead and let's open that up. And now let's drag a marquee with your selection tool around our vector logo. And let's go to the Edit menu and choose Copy. Alright, so now our logo in vector form is on our clipboard. Let's see what happens when we go back to InDesign. Now what we'll do is just make sure that nothing is selected. Just click out here somewhere. And now let's paste. Let's go to Edit and Paste. And let's get our vector logo in pure vector. And just to prove that it is vector and it's going to be editable should you need to edit, let's grab the direct selection tool. And when we do that, we're going to see all of the points and paths that was true vector be displayed. So you can see you have a lot of options for bringing in graphics. You still have the file place command, can always do that. Control D, Command D shortcuts. You can use mini bridge or you can copy paste directly from the other native applications.